Working with distributors. So distributors are the large companies that will buy a lot of wholesale stock and then will sell of a lot of different games, and then will sell, generally sell that stock onto retailers like brick and mortar stores or online stores, along with as bundles of sort of dozens of copies. So they operate on a much higher discount level than retailers do in terms of purchasing from a supplier or a developer, and that discount will usually be about 66% off the the retail price of your game. So that's in Australia at least, and that's just a very rough number. Like obviously there's different arrangements for everyone and stuff like that, but that's sort of what you can talk about as a rule of thumb. And yes, so distributors are interesting to work with because they have a lot of products to look at every day, and they also generally import from overseas. If you're based in the US, then I mean, that's the center of the world for board games, essentially, except for Europe. But at least in Australia, this will be a more Australia-specific episode, I think. In Australia, yes, they will be importing games that they know are successful from America or the EU, and it's really important to them that that there is some assurance of demand. So it's one of those chicken and the egg situations where, so there are many distributors that want retailer demand before they will take on a game, but then conversely, there's a lot of retailers that won't want to pick up your game unless it's sold through a distributor. So it's just one of those kind of things where you just need to go to game stores and sort of ask them who their distributors are, and just try and have conversations and go like, okay, well, see if anyone can sort of help you out with getting the message through that like people want your game. But that's a sort of Sisyphus situation. Like you're always going to be pushing that boulder up the hill. Also with distributors, so they will buy quite a lot more copies of games generally than a retailer. So between sort of when you first start out, it might be like 20 or so, depending on price, but it can go up to 500, 1,000 copies of various games if they believe that they can then sell it on to other people. So your information sheet, it's best to have some kind of to include a list where possible of retailers that are also interested in your game, or are already selling your game, if that makes sense. In terms of who to talk to, at least in Australia, there is VR Distribution. They're a really, really good company. There is Big Play Games, which are based on the Gold Coast in Queensland. They're awesome to work with. And there's also Let's Play Games, which supplies, which does the distribution, I think exclusive distribution for the chain of Good Games stores. So that's a very popular chain of stores around Australia, of sort of like franchised places or using the name, and they have a special arrangement there, so that's good. But as with what I would recommend in general, as always, is sort of trying to communicate with various levels of the whole chain at once. So you can show your game to distributors, but also be going in and talking to retailers, and also be showing it to customers yourself, and also going to events and things, if possible. You'll have your own unique circumstances and sort of constraints likely of time that you're working under, but that's sort of my advice to generating, just the sparks that are needed to get the engine going. So as ever, please leave any feedbacks or questions or comments in the comment section, and yeah, as ever, good luck.